Every year at this time, we mourn the loss of our temple. I have often asked and often been asked why we mourn a building that we have never seen and which we seem to be managing without. So what exactly are we so sad about? Rabbi Chaim Volozhin, a pupil of the famous Vilna Gaon, offers a perspective on the temple. Let us follow what he teaches. The Zohar says that the ultimate temple is not the building that we build, but ourselves. Our hearts are like the Holy of Holies, the room at the heart of the temple which contained the ark. Just as the divine presence rested above the ark, so can God rest in our hearts. The temple was just a way to make this happen. This idea comes from God's command to build the temple in the desert. V'asu li mikdash v'shochanti b'seicham, God said to Moses. God does not say, they will build a temple for me and I will dwell in it, but rather, they will build a temple for me and I will dwell among them, meaning in the heart of every person. The temple is like a portal, not a portal for us to find God, but a portal through which God enters into our hearts. Thus, says Reb Chaim Volozhin, relating to God is a high-stakes game. We all recoil from the idea of storing rubbish in our own ark in the shul. We all feel indignant at the Romans who desecrated and defiled the Holy of Holies in the temple in Jerusalem. In truth, says the Midrash on Eicha, what the Romans did was not so terrible. The divine presence had already departed from there, and the Holy of Holies was just a room. However, when we have a bad thought, when we feel greed or jealousy or hatred in our hearts, we do far worse than the Romans. We bring filth right into our hearts, where God still tries to be. When our hearts are so cluttered and dirty that they are no longer habitable, then God pulls out of our hearts and no longer seeks to enter via the temple. This happened long ago. Our temple had become a redundant architectural curiosity on a Jerusalem hilltop. It was an empty shell, and when all hope was lost, it was razed to the ground. So the destruction of our temple is not really our main concern. It was a symptom of something far more disturbing, the ruin of the Jewish heart. The good news is that in the Haftarah for Shabbos Hazayin, God still calls us his children and invites us to return. I can explain what this means through something I learned from my father shortly before he passed away. When I studied in yeshiva in Manchester, I used to sleep at home. We finished learning in the yeshiva at 10:45 p.m. and then I would jump on my bike and ride the 1.5 miles home. In the summer, we'd have Ma'ariv at 10:45 when the learning time ended, so I set off even later. When I got home, sometime after 11, I would chain my bike up to a railing near my parents' home, check out the cake tin in the kitchen cupboard, and then put myself to bed. It was only shortly before he died that my father told me that he and my mum could never sleep until they heard the clank of my chain as I secured my bike. They had never told me this because they didn't want to pressure me to come home earlier than I wanted. They endured 2 years of late nights and worries because I wanted to learn Torah. That's what parents do. When a friend or a colleague might get impatient and storm off, a parent will wait. God is our Father. He's waiting. He cannot rest. He is constantly listening out for the sound of the furniture scraping in our hearts as we tidy up and make a space. Our Tisha B'Av reflections on our sin and its consequences help us to clean up, just like God told us to do through his prophet Yeshaya in the Haftarah for Shabbos Hazayin. When our hearts are ready as temples, our temple and our God will return, and all will be well.